Lesson 8, the Word of God, Part 2. Part 1 covered the scientific findings and gave a brief description of the non-physical platform that makes quarks exist. That spirit-based platform makes quarks the pathway for the Spirit of God to occupy and sustain His universe. Also covered was this difference in the Greek word for word, lexi, versus the Bible's Greek logos. Logos being the mental meaning and thought that's conveyed when we speak words. Logos, as used here, describes the conscious, rational mind and hand of God, motivating the agenda, or what the Bible calls predestination, of the entire course of the entire universe. This making the story of the Logos in the book of John a wonderful cascade that gives meaning to everything. The first 3 verses of Genesis elegantly and accurately use non-scientific language to describe the Big Bang. The first 3 verses of John and science illuminate that event. God says, the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters in Genesis. God, through John in Genesis, gives this Spirit over the water phrase much more insight. The Gospel describes this Spirit being present and the motivation for the creation as well as for everything else that follows. That's why John says, in the beginning was the Word, that is Logos, and the Word, Logos, was with God, and the Word was God. It was in the beginning with God, all things were made through it, and without it was not anything made that was made. Unlike the Greek lexi word, simply providing the word's meaning, be, or the verb to be, Logos is the breathed out command concept of God when He says, be. Like when Genesis details the steps of God's command to be. Let there be light, let there be land, etc. So here we have the logosified miracle of the Big Bang creation. Then God, through John, walking us through the cascade of miracles, obtains the reason and reasoning for us behind all existence. Namely, why did God bother to make a universe? Why did He bother to make us? The very next sentence, actually the very next phrase in John's account, launches into this reason for everything. It says, in it, Logos, was life. God's next step after the Big Bang is life. The Greek word zoe in this verse is related to English zoo and zoology. We're talking about biological life. It would mean that to have biological life, this Logos has to ratchet the non-living stuff in the universe up a notch. Basically, a miracle in a miracle. Is life an ongoing miracle? Let's say biologic science gets to the point where it can put together all the microscopic, complex pieces of a living cell. Say one of the germs that live on your skin. The scientist puts it together perfectly so it's exactly like the one living on your skin, down to each molecule and atom. Now all the scientist needs to do is hit the start button. That's the problem. It happens all the time where something alive can just stop being alive, die, but it never seems to happen that something dead becomes alive. Our Earth has an extreme variety of life, some much simpler than the bacteria on your skin. There are also very complex things that are almost alive that you can see. like some viruses and cells that can only act but not actually be alive by being in a living cell. If evolution could come up with whatever it takes to finally become alive, then we should see it happen. But it isn't. It doesn't. I'm going to say that because it can't. Just like the Big Bang, life can't happen by itself. It has to have the logos, the will and hand of God. Then it goes everywhere, like an explosion, like the Big Bang. These two ongoing miraculous explosions are the stepping stones to another two, which will tell us why we exist, God willing, in part 3.